Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, October 5th, 2021, and we are here today to talk about our school age programs. Hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. I've been super excited for this topic. Those of you that know me, you know that I started my career working in after school programs. It is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm happy that we are giving some focus to our school age programs. So I'm looking forward to going over this material and having some conversations with you. So welcome. I see everyone logging in and saying good morning. Hello. Pat, Sammy, Stella, Melody. Good morning to everybody. Um, like I said, today's topic is the basic care requirements for school age caregivers. So this will wrap up our series on going over the basic care requirements for each of the different age groups. And this one is going to be very different than the other webinars that we've done for the basic care requirements because there is such a big difference with these school age programs. And like I said, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So, so many times after school programs are the redheaded stepchild, and they basically, the people that are not meeting expectations tend to get thrown in there. They get all the hand-me-downs on equipment and materials, and we just don't put enough focus on this incredibly important and much needed program in our schools. So I hope that after today's webinar, we'll kind of really reflect on this and really think about how we can put more into our after school programs. Our teacher workshop that's coming up next weekend, I believe, is going to be specifically geared towards after school programs as well. It'll be applicable to all age groups, but really geared towards after school. So really quick housekeeping items. If this is your first time doing one of our 10 at 10s, welcome. We're glad you're here. The way this works is that you get to participate live. So this makes it an instructor-led training with childcare licensing. You can ask questions, you can make comments, you can give me high fives, you can give me hearts, whatever little emoji you want to put in the comment section right there, you can do that. But mainly you can ask questions. If you need more information about the material that we're covering, you can go for it there on the comment screen. It does not cost you anything to watch the Facebook Live and to participate. If you are needing a certificate of completion, at the end of the webinar today, I will post a link for a worksheet. You can complete that worksheet. There's about 10 questions on there about the material that we're going to go over today. And then after you submit that worksheet, there is a $5 fee, and I will email you a certificate of completion. So that's how it works. If you missed this workshop today, or you know somebody that really needs to watch this and they're not able to log in at 10 o'clock, don't worry. All of our videos are recorded. They are available on Facebook, but most importantly, they are available on our website, timthetrainer.com. You can always go back and watch this, the recorded video, anytime it's convenient for you. Now, if you watch the recorded video, then it would be self-instructional training, which is still 80% of your training hours. So you should still be good on that. All right. But if you are live right now on October 5th, 2021, you get instructor-led hours for this. So yay. All right. Let's go ahead and dive right into our material. Now, once again, if I say something that you like, or I say something that you're like, I need to reflect on that and think about that for my program, then throw me one of those little emojis out there. So throw me a smiley face or a heart or whichever little emoji you want to throw out there. So that helps me know that, number one, you're there, and number two, that, you enjoy the information that I'm giving you. And ask questions, make comments if you've got something to say. Just kind of keep it short because I got to read these while I talk. All right, so let's talk about the basic care requirements for school age caregivers. And I am using the Child Care Minimum Standards 746 booklet, all right? So I am using the minimum standards for child care programs. Now, if you're an exclusive after school program, you do have a separate set of standards that you can look at. It's basically the same material, all right? So whether you're using one book or the other, it's basically the same material. But this is in the Child Care Minimum Standards for Licensed Child Care. It's the 746 subchapter K as in kangaroo, all right? And I'm going to be adding a lot more information to what we've got in here, all right? So what are the basic care requirements for school-age children? There are 4 basic care requirements that you need to know about. And you might want to write these down because you're going to see them again on your worksheet at the end of the webinar. And I absolutely love the very first thing listed: individual attention from and conversations with adults. That is the very first basic care requirement listed for school age caregivers. Individual attention from and conversations with adults. I love it, all right? I want you to keep in mind that these school age children have been in their public school or private school, charter school setting, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. They're in a very stressed and frustrating environment. And when they come to us in our after school programs, they need, to be in a relaxed and stress-free environment with adults that they can simply look up to and have conversations with. That is so important. And if you take anything away from today's webinar, that's what I want you to take away from this. They need to be in a stress-free, all right, environment with adults that they can look up to. I always talked about this. When I'm hiring for our programs, for infants and toddlers, I'm always looking for adults that are nurturers. When I'm hiring for preschool and pre-K, I'm looking for early educators. When I'm hiring someone to work in our after-school programs, I'm looking for role models, all right? Someone that these kids feel comfortable talking to, all right? Someone they can look up to. And our children these days, especially school-age children, they need somebody they can look up to, all right? So do you have those role models in your program? Are you a role model for these kids? Okay, that's number one. So, I think one of the questions that you have on your worksheet is why is it so important to have individual conversations, individual attention and individual conversations with adults? Because, a lot of people think that the attachment piece of caregiving, that these kids are a little too old for that attachment part. We talk about this a lot with infants and toddlers about creating healthy attachment figures, and that people, adults, that children feel safe around and that they can go to when the world isn't going their way. And we tend to think that that's only an infant, toddler, preschool characteristic, and it's not, all right? For these 5 to 13-year-olds, that attachment system is so incredibly important that we have adults in our program that these kids can go to when the world is not going their way, and people that make them feel safe. And for our public school children right now, there's so much stuff going on. By the time they get to our program, their window of tolerance is about like this, and their cup is so full it's about to explode. And so that's why it's so important that we have those individual conversations and individual attention, because we got to open that window of tolerance back up. And that attachment system is on the moment they walk in our doors. So, that's why it's so important right there. All right, so the number 2 is the physical care routines appropriate to each child's development needs. So we still need to have opportunities for going to the restroom and washing hands and having a healthy snack in the afternoon. So those physical care routines, they still need to be in place, all right? And remember mapping, model, add visuals, and practice. These kids, even though they're 5 to 13, they still need visuals to help them with their physical care routines. So make sure that that is in place as well. Number 3, flexible programming according to the ages, interest, and abilities of the children. Now, this is tough, and this is where, again, we tend to make mistakes in our after school programs because the after school program tends to get treated like the redheaded stepchild, and they get all the hand me downs from the preschool program. A lot of times, there's not age appropriate programming in this group. So I really want y'all to take a look at that. Do you have age appropriate programming for this specific age group? I also want you to keep in mind that most of your after school programs, you have 5-year-olds to 13-year-olds. All right. You got an 8-year gap between youngest and oldest child in these after school programs. So when we talk about flexible programming activities, is there going to have to be a lot of different options for these kids? Yes, because the needs of those 6-year-olds are going to be very different than the needs of the 12-year-olds. All right? Keep that in mind when you're building your program and you're staffing your program and you're buying materials and equipment for the program. You've got to have a good variety of age appropriate equipment that's going to engage them and keep their interest, because you've got an 8-year gap between youngest and oldest child possibly. All right, so flexible programming according to the ages. And then number 4 is also really important. A caregiver who is aware of the arrival and departure of each child, including the dismissing children who ride a bus or walk home. Now, I don't know very many of y'all that do that. You allow children to ride a bus or to walk home from your program. Most of them, your parents pick them up, but it could happen. The main thing is that you've got a good system in place that you're documenting when children are arriving into your program and when they are departing. Now, we have a whole separate training on vehicle safety and transportation processes that I'm actually about to redo. But I just really quickly want to kind of go over how I like to do this. Most of you are picking up children on buses or vans and you're transporting them back to your program. So, the way I like to do it is on your roll call sheet, you've got, your box with your roll call sheet. I put a mark down whenever they get on the bus. I put a mark across like this when they get off of the bus. And then we'll do a circle in the middle when they get into your classroom. All right? So that's how I like to do attendance tracking, so that I can show they got on the bus, they got off the bus, they got into the classroom. All right? And then, of course, you're going to document the time that they came into your program, and obviously have the parents sign the children out whenever they come to pick up. All right? And I always recommend, I'm fighting off a sneeze. And I always recommend that a second adult always walk that vehicle to make sure that no child is left on the bus or van. All right. So not only the driver is walking the vehicle to make sure a child isn't left on, but have a second adult, preferably a member of management is what I really like, walk that vehicle to make sure that no child is left on there. All right. Most importantly, for this particular standard right here, that a caregiver who is aware of the arrival and departure of each child, that you're documenting what time did each child come into your program. So when did they get off of the bus? All right. So that's important. And then, like I said, I've got a training out there on my website on vehicle and transportation safety. I'm about to redo it. It's no longer going to be written material. It'll be a video. So be looking for that. And I'm working on it because I'm doing it very, very different than what we're doing right now because there's actually going to be a bus involved. So there you go. Moving on, what physical space requirements must I provide for school-age children? It's going to tell you that you need to have interest centers in your program. And there are 7 particular interest centers that are listed in the child care minimum standards that need to be available for these kids. Now, once again, a lot of times people think, oh, I don't need interest centers for school age programs. And you do, all right? These kids still need to benefit from these interest center. Arts and crafts, all right? One way to relieve stress and anxiety is to tap into your creative outlet. So having arts and crafts available for these kids is so important because that creative outlet, all right, is going to release the chemicals in the brain, the natural chemicals in the brain needed to help them cope with the stress and the anxiety that they have, coming in from their after school programs. And what I really like for this particular age group is long-term projects. So not so much an arts and craft project that they can do in 5 or 10 minutes and then they move on to the next thing. But this particular group, they really enjoy long-term projects. All right, so kind of keep that in mind right there. Music and movement. All right, so the second one, music and movement. Once again, tapping into that creative outlet. But again, this is very relaxing to them. And I, once again, and I know you are like, there's not enough Tylenol to support this request. I like real musical instruments. Like I want a guitar and a drum set and a keyboard and a piano. I mean, that would be so awesome to have like a little jam session in your after school program. That is so cool right there. But that music and movement, I know so many after school programs that have dance clubs. And I tell you, these kids can get down. Make sure that it's age appropriate. All right. Because I've walked into an after school program and I'm like, whoa, we need to talk about this dancing. But they love it. All right. And it's not just a girl thing either, it's the guys too. Blocks and construction. All right. These guys still like the blocks and construction, especially Legos. And we've got some really extensive Lego sets that are STEM based that are really good for these kiddos right here too. All right. Oh, and Billy just made a comment about getting the Lego sets right there. We actually put in Lego walls in my after school programs. We have giant, like the wall behind me, the entire wall is a Lego wall. Really easy to make too, y'all. Just get the Lego sheets and then you just hot glue, or not hot glue them, mount them onto the walls and put a frame around it. They look really nice and the kids really enjoy it. They have a good time. But check out Lego, go to Lego's website and they actually have a whole STEM program just for after school programs and STEM related programs that are really, really cool. And you can actually take some classes to help enhance your after school program that's all built around blocks and construction and engineering using Lego. So it's pretty cool stuff right now. We're in the middle of doing this in our after school programs. Drama and theater, all right? So it's a little bit different than saying home center or dramatic play, all right? But here we're going to talk about drama and theater. That ability for them to act out their emotions, act out their feelings, act out their scenarios that they've got going on in their lives. And again, make this long term, all right? It can be a long term production for you. And the way I used to do this, kind of changed a little bit with pandemic now, but we actually used to put on a performance for the families. The kids would practice and take on roles and parts, and then we would have a performance, and then videotape it so you can play it for the families that are not able to attend, or post it on social media with parent permission. The kids really enjoy this, and you're creating an interest in a career right here, so it's pretty cool. Math and reasoning activities. Again, the unit blocks, counting activities, anything to enhance those skills are still good. science and nature. We actually have science rooms in our after school programs, a whole science lab, you can say. That's pretty cool because, again, tapping into that creative outlet, getting those natural chemicals flowing in the brain, really good. Reading and language activities. So we can still support reading and language activities such as books, story tapes, language games, stories read or told on a weekly basis, and cultural awareness. And what I really like to do here is to bring in some age appropriate books and have the school age kids read them, and we usually record them, and then take them into the younger classrooms and play them. All right, now that would be considered screen time for your younger kids, but it's really good for the after school kids to be able to give back and provide an active service to the younger children, and reading to them, or creating these books on tape per se. I know that kind of sounds old, but you can utilize your school age kids to do some of this, and all of the kids in the program and the families really, really love it. All right. So those are your interest centers that we need to include in our program. So yes. Make sure that these are organized for independent use by the children, so it can either be a group activity or independent play. Again, when these kids come into our after school programs, their buckets are very, very full. Their window of tolerance is very, very tight. So some of them might need some alone time, some supervised alone time. So, that independent play might be good for some of them that just need a moment to themselves. Make sure that it's arranged so that caregivers can properly supervise the children, as outlined under the general responsibilities for personnel. Supervise children at all time. All right. Enough space where children can have individual activities and still be supervised, and then a quiet place to do homework. All right. Now let's talk about this for just a little bit. The standards do tell us that we do need to have time and place. Set aside time and a place for children to do their homework or to study. If they are using a tablet or a laptop for their homework or for study, this is not considered screen time. So that's important to know for these guys right here. However, I would make sure that you have it in your handbook, or create a completely separate agreement that you have your parents sign, that basically says, we will provide time and space for your children to do their homework or study. However, we are not responsible for the outcome. Y'all, that's important, all right? In my career, I can't tell you how many times I have had a parent yell and scream at me because their child is failing second grade. And somehow it becomes our fault because their homework is wrong. And we have to go back and say, no. We're going to provide time and space, but we're not responsible for the outcome. It is still the parent's responsibility to check their child's homework. All right. And especially during the pandemic, when we were having to do virtual learning assistance, definitely we had those agreements typed up that we would provide time and space for virtual learning. However, we were not the teacher. All right. The public school teacher is still the teacher. All right. We're just there to provide time, space, and supervision for the children. All right. Now, if you want to get into the tutoring business, then that's an opportunity for you. You are taking on some liability and some responsibility with that. But if you have a well-drafted agreement, then that might be something you look at, and maybe even charge a little bit of an extra fee for tutoring if you have the right people in your program to do so. All right. My whole thing with that is where I can see that it is needed. We also don't want to add more stress or frustration to these kids that have already been in that extremely structured environment for the last 7 hours from 8 to 3. We don't want them to feel more stressed and frustrated when they get to our program by adding this layer of tutoring on top of it. All right. I understand that some children need it. All right. And we can maybe incorporate that a little bit into the program, but I wouldn't go full force 3 hours of tutoring. And some parents are going to ask for that. All right. So, yeah. So allow them a little bit of time, especially once they get off of the bus and they get to your program, they need to chill for a little bit. All right. So, like we have here on the comment screen, snack, quiet time, and then we can get into some homework and stuff like that after they've had a moment to chill. Once again, make sure that you've got furnishing and equipment that is age appropriate for this particular age group. And remember, we're dealing with 5-year-olds to 13-year-olds, so we got a very large span from youngest to oldest child. So the size of your equipment is going to vary based on the group that you currently have. Once again, this is where I see that school age programs get treated like the redheaded stepchild, and just leftover furniture and equipment gets thrown in there, and you've got these little 12-year-olds sitting in chairs that were made for 4-year-olds. All right. So, make sure that we've got the age appropriate stuff in there. And we've been moving more towards a lot of these ergonomically correct pieces of equipment that are adapted seating type situations. The kids are really enjoying it, and they're super cool. So, you can check out Lakeshore has a lot of it. Discount School Supply has a lot of it. But kind of changing up from the traditional tables and chairs to some of this, adapted seating type stuff. And like I said, the kids are really enjoying it. That right there, again, is adapting to what is age appropriate for this particular age group right there. All right. But then make sure that you do have workplace for them to do their homework and tabletop activities as well. If you have these kids all day long, so it's summer camp or spring break or winter break, they still need to have a nap or rest period. Now, they don't have to sleep, they just need to have a rest period, whatever you feel is appropriate for your particular group. All right. So licensing does not have a specific amount of time that they have to have a nap or rest period. We typically in an after school program will just have a quiet moment where they read a book or do a quiet activity, and it's usually 15-20 minutes, and then we go on about our day. All right. So again, containers or shelving available so that the items that children need can be easily reached. And so making sure that your material and equipment is accessible to the children, that's important. Dorothy is saying in the comment section that we start with outside time, weather permitting. I think that's fantastic. These kids, they need to get those physical impulses out. One thing I really love to do in our after school programs is sports clinics. All right. So that we can kind of work on some basic sports skills with the kids that are interested in this. Now, this is an optional item for them, it's not a requirement for all of the children. But anything to get those physical impulses out and to get out there and to run and to play and to get some sunshine. Because remember, in most public schools, they're not going outside every day. They might go outside 2 or 3 times a week, and so we want them to get that physical activity that is so critical for their development right there. So, yeah, get them outside whenever you can. Now, I talked about sports clinics. I think that those are really cool and the kids really enjoy them. That would be structured play. I would also encourage you to have an adequate amount of unstructured play whenever they go outside as well. Unstructured play creates the ability to self-regulate, and that is an important skill that has to be practiced. All right, but self-regulation comes from unstructured play. And I've talked about that in a few webinars recently because it's a hot topic right now. But when we have structured play, the ability to self-regulate is lost. All right. So you can go to my training on understanding cognitive development, and we talk about this a little bit more in detail. But especially for these school age kids, because once again, their window of tolerance is so small and their bucket is so full, that unstructured play is going to help them with their ability to self-regulate. All right. So that's cool stuff right there. All right. What activities must you provide for school-age children? We'll talk about these right here. But daily activities for school-age children must include, once again, opportunities for them to do their homework or to study whenever needed. Make sure that you put out to your parents that we're going to provide the time and the space, but we're not responsible for the outcome. Once again, opportunities for outdoor play when weather permits. Now, remember, one of the new standards that we have as of April of this year is that you do need to have it in your policy manual on how children will get physical activities when weather is not permitting. So, you need to have a plan that if you can't go outside due to the weather, how will you get their physical activity? So, we've always done this in our after school programs, y'all. This is not anything new or different. It just needs to be formalized now, is basically it. All right. But that's where your music and your movement, your singing and your dancing, your drama and your theater is going to be very helpful to help supplement the physical activity when weather does not allow them to go outside. All right. We actually used to take our drama club outside, and we did drama club outside. So that's cool stuff right there. Opportunities for thinking skills and sensory development. So, some examples of age appropriate equipment or activities include sand and water play. Yes, these kids still love their sand and water play. We're going to make it age appropriate for them, but they still need that sensory development. A lot of kids with sensory processing disorders, this is not typically diagnosed until 6 or 7. All right. So having that sand or water play can help with this diagnosis if you have a child struggling here. Construction material and blocks, puzzles with 50 or more pieces. These kids like the long-term projects, so a larger puzzle, a puzzle that they can work independently or as a group. This is good stuff, all right? And then you can glue the pieces together and display it. You got a masterpiece. Pattern making materials such as wood, paper, plastic, beads, ceramic tiles, cloth or cardboard, games that contain rules and require some skill or strategy that is age appropriate for that particular child. Remember, you've got an 8-year gap between youngest and oldest child in this group, so you're going to have a variety of board games that are age appropriate for them. Specific skill development materials such as rulers, tape measures, telescopes, weather observation equipment. I love that one. Models of the solar system, microscopes, books, magazines that are age appropriate. And y'all, subscribe to some real paper magazines that are still delivered in the mail for your after school programs. I know that there's so many things that are digital nowadays, and books and magazines and articles come to us in a digital format. You can still subscribe to different magazines that are paper and come to you in the mail. And I love having all of these subscriptions delivered to our after school programs, whether it's sports related or nature related, even entertainment that's age appropriate. So having this supply of magazines that are age appropriate for your kids is so awesome. All right, let's get back to the basics, folks. Let's get back to the basics. All right, I see some suggestions there on Facebook. Shaving cream, food coloring. Yes, these kids still love this. All right. Yes. I got to check on Highlights Magazine. I would assume they're still delivering. Ranger Rig, ESPN for Kids. We need to check on that, but I know they're still out there. All right. Opportunities for small muscle development. So, examples of age appropriate equipment or activities would include arts and craft material, such as paints, markers, colored pencils, crayons, clay, weaving and braiding materials, music and musical instruments, once again, of all types, and puzzles or interlocking blocks. All right, so a lot of this stuff we've already talked about right there, but that's your small muscle development. Yeah, Loretta is confirming that Highlights for Children is still available. All right. So that's fantastic news right there. I'm actually going to look into that this afternoon. All right. So, opportunities for large muscle development. So, again, age appropriate equipment and activities would be balls and sports equipment that are safe and supervised by the caregivers, such as kickballs, baseballs, soccer balls, basketballs. Skates and horseshoes. That's pretty cool right there. All right, again, age appropriate, supervised by the adults, and used appropriately according to the manufacturer's recommendations. But that's cool stuff. All right. When was the last time your school age children threw horseshoes? Okay, that's good. Riding equipment. So if you have space for bikes, so the scooters, bicycles, skateboards right there. Make sure you have knee pads and elbow pads and helmets available for them. And other outdoor gym equipment such as slides and swings, climbing equipment, upper body equipment. These guys still need all of that. All right. So really good opportunities for large muscle development and opportunities for them, once again, to get those physical impulses out. All right, that is so desperately needed. Opportunities for active play, both indoors and outdoors. So, age appropriate equipment and activities would include active games such as tag or Simon Says, dancing and creative movement to music and singing, simple games and dramatic or imaginary play that encourage running, stretching, climbing, and walking. So lots of great opportunities for active play, both indoors and outdoors right there. We can get very creative with this. And then here's a really important one, and this is important to me. Opportunities for social and emotional development. Okay. So again, our children, especially school-age children, it's like we've closed the door on social and emotional development at this point. But this is the age group where it's so incredibly critical, because these kids are being faced with standardized testing and this very structured environment. And if they don't have the social and emotional skills needed to push through these difficult moments, then they lose it. All right. And we have found there's some really incredible research out there that public schools that put a focus on social and emotional development, where they lend the children the skills needed to deal with the world when the world doesn't go their way, so they're able to self-regulate, their test scores have gone through the roof, which proves what we've all always known. Children do not fail standardized tests because they don't know the material. They fail the standardized test because they can't deal with the stress and the frustration and the anxiety that's placed on them. When we lend them the skills needed to deal with the world when the world doesn't go their way, so they know how to self-regulate, they know how to push through these difficult feelings, then boom, they master the standardized testing. All right. So because we know so many public schools are lacking in this area, that creates an amazing opportunity for us in our after school programs to provide opportunities for social and emotional development, so that we can practice these skills with them that they can then take to their public school or into their home life and as they move into adulthood. All right. So practicing the skills needed to self-regulate. Okay. Please incorporate this into your after-school program. We can do this, once again, all of your typical social and emotional tools that we use in our other classrooms. So dolls, realistic accessories, role-playing material, library, hospital, post office, costumes, makeup and disguises, puppets and puppet shows. Yes, even in your after-school program. Transportation toys such as small vehicles and models so they can reenact scenarios, play and art materials, nature materials, human and animal figurines is going to help them express themselves emotionally. All right. And of course, y'all may see behind me, I've got my self-regulation kit. This is not my self-regulation kit. The self-regulation kit that is published by Conscious Discipline. Check this out, consciousdiscipline.com. But the 5 steps to self-regulation. Over here, I've got Feeling Buddies. There's a whole Feeling Buddies curriculum that is fantastic for your after-school program to help children identify their feelings and to push through those difficult feelings right there. So check that stuff out. And so we don't have time today to go over that. So I don't know what a Gaga pit is either. So that's interesting. Claudia's going to have to explain that to us, what a Gaga pit is. So, but I love it. We can get super creative with this stuff right here. All right, and kind of moving forward and going on with that particular conversation, let's talk about discipline and guidance and punishment. All right, that is appropriate for school age programs. Now, of course, like I said, the 5 steps to self-regulation, and I'll just really quickly go over the 5 steps to self-regulation. First off, they have to be able to identify that they are triggered, okay? And remember, when you get triggered, you're always the last person to know, all right? Everyone around you will know that you're triggered except for yourself. So you cannot self-regulate until you know that you have been triggered. Second thing is that they calm. So you've got to have tools in your after school program so that they can calm. So breathing icons, different ways that they can breathe. These things, an area in your program that they can go to when it's safe so that they can calm. The third is to name your feelings. So are they happy, sad, scared, anxious, frustrated, disappointed? They've got to be able to name their feelings. All right. And then step 4 is that they choose to solve the problem. And the choice to solve the problem has to be theirs. It can't be forced. All right. There's got to be a natural choice to solve the problem. And then 5 is to solve the problem. All right. So that was a very quick overview of the 5 steps of self-regulation. We can go over that in another training or check out consciousdiscipline.com. And then with Feeling Buddies, they learn to whenever they are having a rough moment, they can come and pick up their buddy and they take care of their buddy. What we offer to others, we strengthen within ourselves. So that's the purpose behind the Feeling Buddies. But a lot of times people think, well, that's for little kids. That's not for the after school kids. No, it's actually perfect for them, y'all. It's perfect for them. Now, when we talk about discipline and guidance, especially with our school age children, let's remember where the word discipline comes from. Discipline comes from the word disciple, and disciple is to teach, all right? So all behavior is a form of communication. All behavior is an opportunity to make a difference in that child's life. So when you have children that are acting out or being aggressive in your after-school program, this is an opportunity for you to lend a skill to that child that they desperately need. All right? So I don't want you to look at this behavior as a distraction or as an obstacle. I want you to look at this behavior as an opportunity. That child is trying to communicate something, all right? And they need a skill, all right? Punishing a child does not teach a new skill. And the only way you can replace a troublesome behavior is to lend a new skill, to teach a new skill. All right? So with our school age programs, we tend to want to go straight to punishment. We want to go straight to consequence. And we miss the opportunity to teach a new skill. All right? And again, they need it so bad. They need it so bad. So it needs to be individualized and consistent for each child. All right. So when you have this behavior in your program, always ask yourself, what is the child trying to communicate? All right. What is the missing skill? All right. What are they trying to communicate? What's the missing skill? And we're going to practice that skill in an appropriate way for that child's level of understanding. Okay. Now, and again, you got an 8-year difference between youngest and oldest child in your after school program, possibly. So the level of understanding is going to be very, very different across the board. Okay. I really want y'all to reflect on that when you're working with these kids. And we're going to focus on positive intent. We're going to focus on these skills being directed towards teaching the child the acceptable behavior and focused on self control. So don't put your focus on the negative behavior or the aggression. Put your focus on the desired behavior. All right? So let's help them and see them through loving eyes. A positive method of discipline and guidance that encourages self-esteem, self-control, and self-direction. So we're going to do this by using praise and encouragement for the good behavior instead of only focusing on the unacceptable behavior. The power of positive intent, y'all. What you focus on, you get more of. What you focus on, you get more of. So if your focus is only on the unacceptable behavior, that's what you're going to continue to get. All right? But if you focus on praise and encouragement, you focus on expectations, all right? You focus on the self-control and the self-esteem. Guess what? That's what you're going to get. So it's pretty cool stuff. Remind children of the expected behavior daily by using clear and positive statements. So we want to use encouragement, the power of encouragement. All right. We're all in this together, and encouraging children that they can handle those difficult feelings and emotions. And you're there. Remember, you're a role model for these kids. The very first basic care requirement we talked about was individual attention and conversation with adults. You're there for them, okay? You're having a difficult moment right now. I'm here to keep you safe, okay? I'm here for you. A lot of times, that's all they need to know. That's all they need to know, okay? We're going to redirect them by practicing new skills, all right? And remember, we don't practice new skills when the child is upset, all right? When the child is in their upset moment, no learning can take place. When a child is in their emotional moment, no learning can take place. We're going to practice these new skills when they are in their executive state. All right? That's when they have the ability to learn. That's when they have the ability to solve problems. Okay? Now, I personally do not subscribe to Timeout. I do not believe in Timeout. In my opinion, Timeout does not teach a new skill. All right. So if you're going to impose a consequence, does that consequence teach a new skill? All right. Is it reasonable? Is it respectful? Is it related to the behavior? Timeout is none of those three things. But if you do use a brief separation or timeout from the group, it needs to be appropriate for the child's age and development, which is limited to no more than 1 minute per the child's age, if you choose to do that. Once again, I'm not a fan. Okay. Now, when we talk about discipline and guidance or punishment that is prohibited in your after-school program, no corporal punishment or threats of corporal punishment. Okay. So I don't think any of y'all are going to use corporal punishment on your children, but sometimes the threat is there. All right. So you can't do that. No, 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 no. No punishment associated to food, naps, or toilet training. Now, we don't do naps or toilet training here, but you can't threaten to take their food away from them, their snack. But what I see sometimes is, all right, everyone that behaves today is going to get a piece of candy when you leave. All right, y'all, that would be punishment associated with food. Even though it's candy, it's still something you eat. So that would be a violation right there. No pinching, shaking, or biting a child. Obviously, no hitting the child with a hand or an instrument. Can't put anything in their mouth, obviously. But here's the big one for after school programs: no humiliating, ridiculing, rejecting, or yelling at a child. And I know that we want to have a playful personality when we're working in our after school programs. We want to be playful, we want to be fun, we want to laugh. A lot of us are very sarcastic people. All right. I am the king of sarcasm. All right. But you got to be very careful in your after school program because sarcasm can easily turn into humiliation. Okay. So choose your words wisely. Use the gift that has been given to you called a filter. Okay. And before words come out of your mouth, especially when it comes to sarcasm and humor, make sure that we're not going to be harming or shaming the child. Obviously, no subjecting the child to harsh, abusive, or profane language. So you can't be cussing at them. They can't be cussing at you either, all right? If you have a 12-year-old coming in dropping the F-bomb and other children are hearing that, all right, that is subjecting the other children to abusive or profane language. So that needs to be dealt with accordingly, all right? There's a lot of missing skills that we need to lend in that situation where the child is stuck in their emotional state and this language is coming out of their mouth, because that's the language that has been written into their inner speech. Okay, so we've got to put in some new skills right there. All right, can't lock the kid in a dark room or a bathroom. But most importantly, what I wanted to go over with prohibited punishment is the new one, and you cannot withhold active play or outdoor time as a form of punishment or as a consequence. So I see this very often in after-school programs where they're going to tell a child to sit outside up against the wall, or tell them they can't go outside. You can't do that, okay? And once again, that physical impulse is very much needed. So let them get out there and run and play, all right? And you cannot require a child to remain silent or inactive for an inappropriate long period of time. So if you are subscribing to Timeout, 1 minute per the child's age. Once you go past that 1 minute per the child's age, now you're violating number 10 here, which is requiring them to remain silent or inactive for a long period of time for their age. So you got to be very careful if that is something that you're doing right there. All right. Y'all like my shirt? It says, "Get your cray on." I thought that was kind of funny. Someone gave it to me. I thought it was cute. So, yeah. I don't know where it came from, so don't ask me. All right, so like I said, our next teacher workshop that we're doing is an introduction to STEM and understanding the engineering process. So it's going to be applicable for all age groups, but mainly focused on these older children right here. So if you have after-school program employees that could use some very specific training for that age group, check out my website, timthetrainer.com, and go to weekend mini conferences. We're still doing these live on Facebook. We're not doing them in person yet. So that topic is coming up next weekend. I believe it's next weekend. And so check that out. And like I said, I'm working on a brand new vehicle safety and transportation safety training. The old one is still out there. It's on the website, but we're going to be getting that updated in the very near future. So awesome, we did it. And my schedule for Tim at 10 is posted on the website, timthetrainer.com. Click on Tim at 10, and I usually post these a month in advance. I do that because my world changes quite often, and so I can typically only designate days a month at a time. So, but I've got some really good topics coming up that will be helpful for both you and your staff. So there you go. The worksheet to complete for your certificate of completion should be posted on Facebook now. So just refresh your browser or go to the top of the screen and you should see the links for the worksheet. If you're going to pay with a credit card, you will click on the link that says online worksheet paying with a credit card. If you have an online account set up with me, then you're going to use your 5-digit account number. Click on the link that says online worksheet paying with an account number. If you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, then you don't have an account number. All right. So you're going to click on paying with a credit card right there. And I will also put this in the chat screen once we are done with the live video. If you hopped in late and you missed the first part of today's webinar, please go back and watch the beginning before you do your worksheet. Very, very important that you watch this webinar from start to finish. All right. And so, we want to make sure that we're being honest and completing our worksheets with integrity. All right, whenever you're doing that. Well, I thought this was fun today, and I really enjoyed this topic. And we need to get some more training out there for after-school programs. So I'm going to add that to my list of things to do right there. Okay. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Tuesday, happy fall, yay! It's from the beginning of October until the end of December is my most favorite time to work in this industry during the holiday season and back to school season. It's just so awesome. So enjoy it, take it in, make the best of every situation. And y'all are making big differences in people's lives. So way to go. Way to go. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. I will see you all very soon. Bye.